Tekken one more time. Tekken 8, the latest addition in the long-lasting Tekken franchise. Being accustomed what Tekken is after playing every single Tekken game this past January, I have been incredibly hyped to play Tekken 8, and damn, this game is too good. From every little detail, even the loading screen, looking at Kazuya's eye twitch. There is just so much put into this game, and in my opinion, it's the best fighting game. Before I dive into my reasons, there will be spoilers for the story mode, so you can flee now, or if you need context, go watch my last video. Tekken 8 is such an incredibly looking game. The difference from 7 to 8 is mind-blowing. It's also crazy to think that 7 came out 9 years ago. Every character in the game looks so good. All their animations and costumes are top tier, and all the costumes are free 99, unlike other fighting games, cough cough, Street Fighter 6. Every character has incredible customization. You can make almost anything with some of these. Some of mine include Onigiri Alliance, Fight Money Family, Karyu Kizama, Governor Leg Strength, and the one I'm actually kind of proud of is Leroy Smith as Old Man Static. Also seen some pretty funny ones online, like people have made Goku with Lars. You see a lot of RE characters and Final Fantasy characters, like Tifa is a very big one. But it's just fun getting to see what kind of customization you can make. Now, the main reason we're all here is the fighting game itself. It is literally everything we liked about 7, but way better. Hits feel so powerful, everything looks so good, animations are on point, and it feels so right whenever a Mishima hits an electric. Rage arts look so much better. They really stepped up with these rage arts in this game. You got Yoshimitsu, which takes you back to old Japanese film. Dragunov really hits you with the King has the whooshy finger, and Reina has a whole and brand new to Tekken 8 is a heat mechanic. Gives characters access to new moves, a new flashy heat combo, and what's called a heat dash. Now you have to be careful as you only get limited access to this, and then it's gone for the rest of the match. Heat dash makes for some incredible new combos. I love all the new moves the characters get. I was worried about the heat combo making this game too easy, but its scaling is really bad when it's done with combos, and it's also very unsafe on block, so it doesn't make things too easy. With the heat and rage arts and all the new moves people are at it, like Kuma can now do electrics. When was this a thing? It makes picking a character I want to stick with so hard. Obviously, Jin is my man and I can pick him up easily. And I know his moves, but his new moves are so cool. Victor is hype, just watching him teleport all over the place. Steve has always been a 10 out of 10 in my lane, except for his voice. It's overly too British. Or I could succumb to brain rot like 50% of the player base and pick Reina. There is one character who is kind of calling my name. Yoshimitsu. I don't know why, but he just seems so cool in this game and I really want to learn him. He seems a little daunting because his move list is one of the longest in the games, but half of these moves are just for memes. Speaking of characters, there are 3 newbies. Two of them I've already mentioned. Victor is a French swordsman who is so cool to watch. The spectacle is kind of ruined though when you realize he's just pressing 2 over and over. The coffee lady, Azucena, she kicks my ass. It's like she has UI counters. And lastly, that time Heihachi got reincarnated as an 18-year-old girl. Reina is another of Heihachi's illegitimate child. Harada was not lying when he said there's like 27 more of these children out there. She has a lot of Heihachi's moves, but she plays more like a mix of Lars and Tekken 3 Jin. Now, speaking of Reina, that brings us to the continuation of the story. She's somewhat important there. Now, oh, it's so much better than 7, and 7's story was already really good. It starts off with Jin confronting Kaz about, well, causing war and destruction, and Kaz looks at him and scoffs and goes, yeah, but you started it. Indeed, Jin did start this. We get a good old fight between Devil Kaz and Devil Jin before he laser blasts New York. Jin is then feeling off. He doesn't feel as strong, and it also shows in his combat. You can't use certain moves. I dislike this as I know how to play Jin, and I enjoy doing his stuff, and midway through my fights, I'm like, why isn't it working? Am I missing something? But for story reasons, it makes sense. But now, as any good Mishima does, Kazuya starts a tournament. Kazuya basically says that he believes the world has grown weak, and that he's holding a tournament to see that only the strong will survive. This sounds so fucking familiar. Jin participates in the preliminaries and fights Reina. And we get the good old instance when Jin first meets Reina of the good old Jin walk. After he beats Reina, Jin in the finals fights my boy Harong and makes him realize something. The joy of fighting. Man, I love Harong. He's always been there for Jin, but the only reason he's always been there for Jin is just to throw hands. Or legs in Harong's case. Now that the pre's are over, it's time for the big tournament. Now, this tournament, you get to pick who you want to play during each match, as it doesn't matter to the overall story, and it doesn't really serve any purpose later who wins or loses. I just do enjoy that you get to pick who you want to play as. During this tournament, Claudio, Zafina, and Victor try to ambush Kaz in the middle of his tournament, but this is exactly what he wanted, as Zafina has the power of Azazel inside her. Something I haven't brought up in any of these videos, and I will now just because this is what's happening, is that everyone speaks in their native tongue, which is really cool and a great way to represent all these countries. But you also just have to accept that everyone understands each other perfectly. Okay, now back to this crazy story mode. Kazuya then grabs Zafina and takes Azazel right out of her arm. And now Kazuya wants to absorb Azazel and control his power. Wait, does that mean... Oh, you son of a bitch. I thought we were done with this man, but no. We have to fight Azazel again. It's still the same bullshit. Yes, it's a lot easier because technically you're fighting a boss character with a boss character. But still. Zafina gets knocked out cold, but tells Jin that he needs to return home to free himself of his chains. Jin and a few others leave, and the rest is up to the group here to fight Kazuya. He is wrecking their shit so hard. Claudio has a way to defeat Kaz, and he tries to hit him with the World of Light beam. It does not work fully as he wanted to, and he gets hit with a crazy looking devil beam. And I guess we're never going to see Claudio in another Tekken game again. I feel bad for his 4 mains. After this, we get our Avengers in-game level event. Everyone picks sides. Lars gets help from Steve, King, Paul, Shaheem, Kuma, Leroy, and everyone else who was helping before. You get a little Tekken Forces mode, and this is fine and short, and it gets to the point. It's also broken up with some fights in between, which is why I like this, because I can't play Tekken Forces for hours on end. Now, these fights in between are really funny. My favorite being Law joining Kazuya, all because Paul did not split the tournament money with him. And Kuma tries to attack Paul, but then gets blasted by an RPG. Or when you play as King in the Tekken Forces mode, all the troops get hype. Now this leads to Kazuya fighting Jin and Ling, who has been protecting him the entire time while he was in a coma state. And I really need a girl like Ling Xiaoyu. Okay, hopefully I pronounced it right this time. Y'all were clowning on me in my last video. Now, Kazuya is about to make it to kill Jin, but Lars, our boy, steps in. And I love how Kaz sees Heihachi and Lars and steps back for a minute. Now, Jin wakes up from his state, and he has learned that the devil wasn't a bad guy, but he was protecting him this whole time. Basically having his Bleach moment. But on to the big final battle of Jin and Kazuya, which is an insane amount of fights. You start off as regular Jin, move into Devil Jin, fighting Devil Kaz with Azazel powers. This is absolute bullshit. Then fly into space and become Angel Jin versus Devil Kaz. When did this become Dante versus Virgil? But after the huge battle in space, you go back to Earth and just fight as 2 normal people. No more devil powers. Jin has his Goku moment where he sees all his friends and doesn't give up. Let that nigga know! Finally beats Kaz. I was really happy that they just made this a normal fight at the end of the story mode without all these crazy ass powers. They just made it a really fun, interesting fight between Kazuya and Jin. And all the references that were playing during this fight were so good. I ain't even done talking about this game. There's story mode, of course, but we also have our arcade endings. There are about 5 fights in each arcade mode. Some are longer depending on the character, like Yoshimitsu's fights Azazel for some reason, but all these endings are just great. Steve is so funny, he just gets really buff.
Mate, you look huge!
Dragunov is just a figure collector, and my favorite is Kazuya, where he just shows off his hobby, and he has a massive shoe collection. Some are a bit more serious, but I love when Tekken is just silly. But don't take my word for it, go ahead and watch all these arcade endings yourself. Now again, there's more. Single player options, you got a ton of stuff. The fan favorite Tekken Ball is back. After so many years it has returned. Now all you need to do is add God back into the game as a secret final boss to Tekken Ball, and this game is perfect. And the arcade quest. It's wild to think that something like playing arcades is such an outdated thing that Bandai would make something like this, where they're like, oh, look at this cool thing we used to do. I was in the generation that phased out of arcades, but I went to a few here and there and they were enjoyable. This mode is enjoyable, but it's a tutorial in all aspects. I would recommend playing this at any skill level though, because it's just a great way to learn your character and figure out how to play Tekken. It can literally take a newbie from button mashing to being somewhat confident. It also gives a fun little story to follow along with. I skipped all the yapping, but hey, Harada was there.
Sharp and sit the head down. And don't ask me for shit, okay?
And we have online mode, pretty much the same as 7, but what is new, and doesn't necessarily have to deal with online mode, is the ghost battles. Tekken will save your character data and let you fight yourself, and you'll get to see what you do to people online. Dear God, this is how annoying I am. Or if you feel like you're getting hit with cheap moves, download someone's whole character and fight it, learning how to deal with their bullshit. Does that finally mean I can learn how to tech King's bullshit? I know it's so fake, but it's just so scary. Never would I have thought Tekken would allow me to dox an opponent's skill. And the last thing I'm going to mention today is the soundtrack. Oh my gosh, it's so good. I've already added most of these songs to my playlist. This game to me is literally a 10 out of 10. I have not found any issues really so far with Tekken. The only issue I had was that day one when me and my friends tried to play online, it would just disconnect all the time. This fighting game is literally a 10 out of 10. I am so glad I got into Tekken learning this crazy ass game. Now Tekken 8 has become my favorite fighting game ever.